Welcome to Bookmas! My name is Tammy, and this is the Protagonist Pub, where characters gather. And, yep, the girls are talking a little bit in the background. The mailman just, violated the mailbox, so we shall see. This morning, we are going to talk about the, I don't think I've ever seen a fire truck drive down our street before. Some favorite book discoveries from 2023. And I'm only choosing from my physical list for this. I might do a separate one for Kindle discoveries. That shall be determined. So, physical ones. These are all, verify that before I speak. Yeah. With the exception of, I believe, one. These are all new to me authors. And that wasn't my intent when I pulled the books. It just happens to be the case. So, here, we'll talk about the one I think I may have read before this. That would be Colleen Coble, and I grabbed The Inn at Ocean's Edge, which is the first book in the Sunset Cove series, and she writes Christian romantic suspense, and for me, she is among the best writers of Christian romantic suspense. It is gentle everyday faith, the suspense is very well paced, the plotting is excellent, the character development is phenomenal. She does a superb job of keeping up the tension while still having those small, humorous and or tender moments interspersed, without it turning into a romance novel with some suspense thrown in. Rather, it's a suspense novel in which romance happens. And I devour these books. They are delightful. You can, even if they're in a series, you can read the first one and put it down and come back and read the next in the series at a later point. They work very well as palate cleansers. Or you can just binge the entire series and be very thankful that you have them all just there waiting for you. So, Colleen is a good, reliable author for me that I adore. And next up, actually surprised me when I went to pull books. And the reason it surprised me is because I didn't necessarily love it or rank it at the top when I read it, but I also haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it, which means my brain really likes this book. And I'm hopeful there's more in the works for it. And that would be Mark Maker by Mary Jessica Woods. This is Catholic science fiction. And it literally, my brain hasn't stopped ruminating on it in the background. It is a very thoughtful science fiction book, and it's also not overtly Catholic. It's published by a Catholic publishing house. It's written by a Catholic author. It is Catholic, but it is not overtly Catholic. There is the Catholic symbolism, which, my old brain needed help to even actually see. But it is a very well written and interesting book. It's also a coming of age story, and it is less, I think it's classified as science fiction because it takes place in space on a generational ship, and it involves aliens. So all those things combined put it in the science fiction category. However, it is more of a character-driven story than it is a science-driven story. And I am keeping it on my shelves, which should tell you something. You know how often, once a quarter I unhaul books, and this has not made it to the unhaul list, and it is not being unhauled anytime soon. My brain keeps churning at it, so that's high praise for me. Next up would be the surprise fantasy series that I found in the library, in library bookshop, and I adore them. If you are looking for a hopeful, well-written, unique fantasy series, then I strongly recommend the Risen Kingdom series by Curtis Craddock. The first book in that series is The Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors, I'm sorry. And it is fantasy, but it's also, again, it's not so fantasy driven that if you don't like fantasy, you couldn't read this series. It is a wonderful, hopeful book. And it is there's only 3 books by this author that I'm aware of. It is this entire series. And I don't think I'm unhauling these either. Yeah. I don't think I'm unhauling anything except maybe the Colleen Cobles, just so I can put more Colleen Cobles on my shelf. Any of these books. This series is unexpected. It is character driven. It is got intrigue and politics, and yes, there's some magic, and it takes place on a foreign world, but it's eminently relatable, and it's just gorgeous fiction. Just Okay, next book is The Oath of Brotherhood by Carla Lauraeno. This is the first book in the Song of Seers series. This is fantasy. And it is Celtic inspired fantasy, obviously. If you can see the edges, you can easily understand that it's Celtic inspired fantasy. I have the second and third books on my shelf waiting for me. I need to make a point to get to them. I loved this book. It is beautifully written. It is a engaging story with surprising depth and unintended, I believe, religious allegory, but it isn't. I don't think that was the author's intent by any stretch of the imagination, and I truly, truly loved that book. I need to finish the next 2 next year. Okay, next book should be no surprise. It would be Recorder by Cathy McCrumb. This is the first book in the Children of the Consortium series. We all know I love this book. We all know that I'm on the launch team for book 3, which comes out in February 2024. It's Guardian, and there's the picture. This is sci-fi with a heart. This is the most unique sci-fi book I have ever written or read. And it was Cathy's debut novel. And it is gorgeous and evocative, and I wish I could get more people to go read this series. I wish I could get more people to take a chance on sci-fi that isn't dark and isn't grim and isn't full of space battles and isn't full of hard science. This is fabulous. You don't need for me to gush about this. You know how much I have gushed about this book recently, and will probably continue to until Guardian releases next year. Okay, and the last book from my physical collection for this Bookmas Celebration Day is the first book in the Molly Chase series, which would be In Pieces by Rhonda Ortiz. Again, this isn't going to be a surprise to my regular viewers. This is Catholic historical fiction. And again, you know how I feel about the series. I was on the launch team for Adrift. This is some of the most beautifully written historical fiction there is. These books are where book 1 leaves off, book 2 picks up. Book 3 will come out next year. I know Rhonda just submitted the first version of the book to her editors at the beginning of November. I am so looking forward to book 3. And if you are interested in post-revolutionary war America, Boston in particular, if you enjoy good American historical fiction, which is fairly neglected in this time period, then I highly, highly recommend picking up a copy of these books and reading them. I will link Rhonda's YouTube channel down below. She reads passages from the books over on her channel. And she is just a sweet and wonderful person, as is Cathy, and it is worth the risk, in my opinion. I wasn't sure what to expect when I ordered it, and I was so pleasantly surprised. The first chapter just sucks you in this book. The chapters are short. They, let you, if you need to get up and do something, they're not so long that, you're looking at, huge time investment for every chapter. And yet, it is so immersive that you find yourself unable to put it down. And this book and recorder were amazing blessings for me this year. I love them both immensely. So those are some of my favorite physical books from 2023. I hope you are enjoying your Christmas. I hope you are spending time with family and friends. Please leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.